Hi, this is Mark Patton, and you're watching Monster Nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
You made me gay, girl. You made me gay, girl.
Are you gay?
Hey, you made me gay.
The next film on our list is the fantastic film Interview with the Vampire. The Neil Jordan-directed film hit theaters in 1994 and featured some of the hottest actors of our generation, namely Antonio Banderas, Brad Pitt, and Tom Cruise. The seductive trio share their immortal experiences stretched over 1791 Spanish Louisiana to modern-day San Francisco, a la the 90s. The film as a whole was ahead of its time due to the metaphor the vampires represented that made it a modern classic as a whole, as well as giving it some street cred, well before Twilight effed it up.
The story was effective for showcasing non-traditional views of blended families with Lestat, Louis, and Claudia. It also portrayed unconventional relationships and the desire to find a companion between the vampires with Armand and Louis. The film gets some extra credo by being produced by openly gay media mogul David Geffen. However, it is Rice's metaphor of the vampire as the solitary outsider that was most effective in building a bridge between her fiction and the gay community. Although her metaphor of vampire as outsider can be applied to a much wider scope, her work has found a home with many LGBT people who have vast similarities with her famous anti-heroes. The film on a whole was even effective at using a sideline film genre that was on a bit of a decline in the early to mid-90s, and its message translated into box office gold. Gayest memorable moment? The vampire Armand has allowed the theater of vampires to execute swift justice against the vulnerable Claudia and Louis for draining and feeding Lestat to the dangers of the Mississippi Delta. After Claudia is killed, Armand frees Louis from his coffin prison in the wall. In what would have made for a passionate kiss goodbye, we see Louis bringing himself in for a close-up before stalling at Armand's lips, rejecting Armand's request to be his new companion in favor of being a wandering vampire.
You made me gay, girl. You made me gay, girl.
Next up is Dracula's Daughter. Bela Lugosi was rightly afraid of being typecast after Dracula, so the sequel focuses on his daughter, Countess Valeska, whose intentions towards comely young women are both bloodthirsty and lascivious. Though studio censors tried to suppress any suggestion of lesbianism in director Lambert Hillier's Dracula's Daughter, this was 1936 after all, the overtones are unmistakable, and advertisements even screamed, "Save the women of London from Dracula's Daughter." Another ambiguously announced, "She gives you that weird feeling." A queer feeling, perhaps? In the trailer, Gloria Holden, who plays Countess Valeska, says, "She's under a spell that can only be broken by me, or death." Bright Light's film journal even suggested that Zaleska's quest to cure her vampirism through psychiatry parallels attempts to cure homosexuality through the same method. Gayest memorable moment? Zaleska is supposed to paint a comely female model named Lily, but instead she asks, "Do you like jewels, Lily?" and seductively advances towards her as Lily shrieks, "Don't come any closer!" The camera veers sharply upwards as Lily screams. What happens next is anybody's guess.
You made me gay, girl. You made me gay, girl.
So what makes this next entry on our list horror-related and LGBT-friendly? Well, just about everything. And that would be 1983's Sleepaway Camp. Before compiling this list, my knowledge of Sleepaway Camp was relegated to its notoriety as an exploitation slasher film with a famous twist ending. However, Sleepaway Camp remains so much more.
Released in 1983, this Robert Hiltzik written and directed film introduces us to Angela, a shy and introverted girl whose distant demeanor and standoffish presence makes her a target among the other kids at camp. We are offered glimpses into Angela's past that are filled with tragedy by the 1980s standards, namely having gay parents and an aunt that makes the girls from Grey Gardens look like they are conservatives. Angela goes through a series of bullying incidences, but still manages to catch the eye of fellow camper Paul. Paul's attempt to create intimacy with Angela often show him being rebuffed, which continues a cycle of Angela being ostracized and Paul looking for some nookie elsewhere. Meanwhile, there are several murders that take place over the camp by a mysterious killer who only showcases their hands. It is a mystery killer that is a surprise to no one who can blink. For most horror enthusiasts, this movie is required watching. The entire film takes campy fun to such an extreme it rivals the Rocky Horror Picture Show territory. The death scenes have just the right balance between inventiveness and absurdity brought to life on a special effects budget enough to purchase a Twinkie. Gayest memorable moment? There are so many to choose from. Could it be flashbacks to Angela's father and his lover Lenny in bed? Or her disturbing Aunt Martha, who should have been played by a drag queen? Nope. Spoiler warning, it is Angela's big reveal at the end to actually be male and not female, like holding the severed head that proves to be frightening and utterly gay at the same time.
You made me gay, girl. You made me gay, girl.
Daddy Can't Save You Now. Coming up next in our countdown is 1985's Nightmare on Elm Street 2. This first sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street is so gay, it's commonly known among fans as the gay one. Directed by Jack Shoulder, the movie stars male scream queen Mark Patton as Jesse, whose battle with Freddy for control of his mind and body mirrors the pain and anguish of coming out. Jesse is also threatened by Schneider, a predatory gym coach with an S&M fetish, and clearly attracted to his buddy Grady, who utters the memorable line, "She's waiting for you in the cabana, and you want to sleep with me." Shameless plug department. I'm actually working on Patton's in-production documentary Scream Queen, and Mark will be a special guest at FlameCon, where we'll be a guest too. Gayest memorable moment? Mark's nightmarish visit to a queer S&M joint filled with leather boys, transvestites, and the sinister coach. The bartender is played by New Line CEO Bob Shea, and assless chaps. Some things are more scary than Freddy Krueger.
I see you shiver with anticipation.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Come on, really, is anyone surprised by this? It's got horror in the title, and it stars a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. How could it not be number one? Perhaps holding the most notorious legacy of all the films listed here, the Rocky Horror Picture Show has fallen into cinematic legend.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Released in 1975 and directed by Jim Sharman with a cast of true staying power, with the likes of Tim Curry, Meatloaf, Barry Bostwick, Susan Sarandon, with script and music by Richard O'Brien. The film follows two Americans who stumble into the wrong castle where they meet a colorful array of characters who can only be described as ridiculous. Here, though, ludicrous fits in as a fine theme for the film as we meet Dr. Frankenfurter, his servants, who would have a significant role influencing the punk scene, and of course Rocky, a stereotypical gay fantasy creation that landed his name in the title, mostly due to his blonde hair and outrageous muscles. With catchy tunes and inspirational dance steps, while paying homage to older sci-fi and horror movies from the 1930s through the 70s, Rocky Horror managed to elevate the midnight movie experience to a collective conscious by being inclusive and shocking to its audience simultaneously. Gayest memorable moment? Everything. Even the ending credits.
How'd you do, I see you've met my faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man.